Returnal is not, at first glance, the kind of game you'd imagine Housemarque to be making. The PlayStation 5 reveal event included, among other things, a trailer for Returnal, which introduced us to a lone astronaut stuck on an alien planet and forced to relive her crashing and dying upon it over and over again. Her memories and thoughts steadily becoming more twisted and gruesome with every death. The planet worming its way into her being and possibly vice versa. Her only hope of maintaining her sanity being to somehow push through and solve the mystery at the heart of the planet. It's all very dark, atmospheric, and brooding, and for most of the trailer, I would have assumed I was looking at a horror game.
Each time I awake, this planet seems somehow
And then the gameplay section of the trailer kicked in.
as if changing,
Once you learn who Housemarque is, things begin to make more sense.
becoming
The oldest commercial game developer in Finland, Housemarque made a name for themselves as dedicated arcade designers with titles such as Super Stardust, Resogun, Nex Machina, and Matterfall. Characterized by fast, frantic action and neon-bright particle effects and explosions in all directions, the games gained critical acclaim but ultimately in recent years failed to sell well, as the devs themselves announced in a blog post titled "Arcade is Dead," noting that the industry is moving more forward or more towards multiplayer experiences with strong, robust communities. They put action to words by announcing Storm Divers, a battle royale shooter livened up with special powers and abilities, but that got put on hold earlier this year as they shifted their efforts to a then unnamed AAA project, their most ambitious yet. We now know that they were talking about Returnal, but even if their graphics and storytelling are reaching the AAA quality, it's also clear that they're not so subtly taking their arcade heritage with them. The trailer features the same flashy, colorful particle effects as can be seen in their arcade games. Some enemy attacks even take on the same bullet hell geometric patterns of their past games, while the protagonist's movements have the same light, twitchy feeling often found in arcade games, with the kind of rapid side dashing so common in their previous works. Looking through their snippets of gameplay, it's not hard to walk away feeling like Returnal is their attempt to sneak in arcade design into a AAA shooter under the cover of roguelikes. Which, honestly, doesn't exactly sound like the worst of all possible futures to me. Even if they're trying to break into AAA games, Housemarque's traditional strengths lie in their arcade design and aesthetics, and it's a sound plan to try and play to their strengths as much as possible, even while moving in a new direction. Besides, the idea of a third-person arcade shooter isn't one that's been explored all too often in recent years. Shooters tend to lean towards realism and weight. And the idea of dropping that to go all in on the dopamine rush of hypermobility and color explosions is one well worth diving into. From the looks of it, they've even managed to incorporate how easy it is to die in arcade games into the plot proper. The time loop and planet shifting plot point mentioned in the trailer is almost certainly pointing at a roguelike mechanic, complete with randomized dungeons, making death by bullet hell less punishing, and hopefully more rewarding over time. The trailer, for instance, showcased multiple gun types, holding open the possibility of some kinds of weapon collection system, while they only demonstrated one notable ability, dashing that is. If Storm Divers was any indication, it may well be possible to unlock even more interesting movement-based abilities, teleportation, shield summoning, invisibility, etc., which would certainly give you more of a compelling reason to try again after death than getting a high score. The wrinkle in all of this, however, is how gameplay would mesh with what seems to be a very serious and poo-faced story. Going from what feels like psychological horror to dash-dodging giant waves of purple gluey balls gives something of a sense of tonal whiplash. And while their arcade design skills may be well established, their storytelling isn't quite there yet. Whether they have their writing chops to tell a story of psychological breakdown and to square that story with the colorful combat remains to be seen. But even if the story ends up being so much fluff, Housemarque still has a strong tradition of core gameplay to fall back on, and with any luck, they'll be able to translate arcade aesthetics into a new genre, a new generation, and a new dimension, which, if successful, may very well end up giving arcade games a second lease on life. Given their love of the genre and the reluctance with which they declared that arcade games were dead, that'd be an outcome to warm the hearts of the developers. Here's hoping for their success. And there you have it.